All right, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about how to lower the price after you have an inspection done on a commercial property that you're acquiring. This is an important part of the process when buying and negotiating a great deal on a commercial property. In fact, not at all surprising to come across some unknown items or surprises during the course of buying a commercial property during the inspection. The reason for this is oftentimes with a commercial property, you haven't gone through all the units, you haven't seen the inside of the property, and sometimes you can come across some small things and some bigger things, which we'll talk about here. So the first thing that we're going to put down here as far as getting the price lower is that we're just going to focus on major issues. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to find wrong probably with any commercial property out there, and there's nothing more annoying than to be working through a deal, trying to get it to closing and have someone come up with minor little ticky-tack stuff. I had a guy that bought a commercial property from me one time, and he wanted to argue with me at closing over like some $20 and $30, $40 stuff. I just opened my wallet and took a few bills and tossed them on the table, said, there you go, got that handled. So we're going to stick just with major issues. And in one of the properties that we're looking at this week, one of our mentor students has a property under contract. And actually we have two properties under contract with their mentor students this week, but this one I'm thinking of actually had some major issues as far as the wiring goes. It had antiquated wiring that wasn't just like an old fuse box. It was actually ball and tube type wiring that was actually live hot wiring in it. So obviously something like that, a major issue as far as possibly having the entire property rewired, is definitely something that we're going to use to reduce the price. It may be even something that kicks this property out, and we may advise our student to not go ahead with the purchase once we go ahead and review the final inspection report with them. So if you're going to negotiate the price down, stick just with major issues. Number two, when you're negotiating the price down, I think that in fair play and to come across as credible as far as an investor, you need to make sure that you're negotiating about things that you did not know about prior to doing the inspection. This is what we call the surprise factor. So if there's a property and you know, for example, the other one that's under contract this week by another one of our mentorship students, there's an issue with the roof. We knew about that going in. The student had gotten estimates on the cost of the roof. He'd actually gotten a bid from the seller that a previous buyer had gotten on the roof. So everyone knew about the roof before the offer was put in place and accepted. It would be, I think, negotiating in bad faith and having us come across as not very credible if we went back to the seller and said, well, because the roof is going to be so expensive, we need you to lower the price. They're going to obviously say, look, you knew about that before you put your offer together. You should have based your original offer on that. No, we're not going to lower the price. So we're looking for things in any inspection that we do. We're looking for things that could be potentially larger items that we can position in a way where we can say, hey, I didn't know about this, or I didn't know the extent of this. Maybe you knew that there was maybe some problems with whatever, but you didn't know the extent, the cost of it. And that's what we call the surprise factor. Number three, when we're going back to the seller to say, look, here's everything we found with the inspection of the property, it helps if you can have something to substantiate that. You don't want to just go in and say, well, I think this is going to cost about X dollars, just plucking a number from air. Ideally, what you would have is some sort of a bid. It doesn't have to be a formal, detailed bid, but if you can get a general contractor, generally is a good one that could do this for you, even if you pay them for providing a bid for you, and have them give you a full-blown retail price bid that someone would pay to have this done, at top dollar. As you know, when you get bids on repair work, you can generally find that you can have work done, for a very high price. You can have it medium price. You can have it done for a very cheap price. I don't recommend getting work done for a cheap price, by the way. Oftentimes there's a reason they're the cheapest. But the idea is you're going to come up with a high bid. It might be just something as simple as a quick little letter that a general contractor or an electrician, if they're repairing the electrical or whatever, says that, hey, here's the range of what this is going to be based upon other similar type properties that we've repaired in the past, so that you have some sort of documentation that you can send over to the seller to say, hey, this is what we found. It's going to cost, could cost as much as this, as you can see by the letter I've attached here. What would you be willing to do price-wise so that we can still get this thing to the closing table and everyone can get paid? So getting what we call high bids is key number 3 when you want to lower the price after getting an inspection done on a commercial property. Number 4 is probably one of the funnest ones that I've had a lot of fun with over the years, and it is called a repair allowance. And a repair allowance, what that is when you're going back to the seller, an example of one of the properties we're working on not too long ago, the roof had been damaged by a hailstorm. The property was located in Colorado, and the roof had been damaged by a hailstorm. We knew about it. The seller had actually already settled up with his insurance company and gotten paid, but the work had not been done on the property yet. And so it was fairly easy to negotiate with the seller that they would give us the proceeds that they'd gotten from the insurance company at closing. And the way you get this is if you get it as a repair allowance rather than reducing the price, what that means is that the amount of money that you need to bring to closing to cover your down payment and so forth, that's going to be reduced by the amount of the repair allowance that you get. And what this does for you is it reduces the money you need to get into the property, will increase your cash on cash return on the property. Different lenders may treat this different ways, but as long as the lender is aware of it and okay with it, what you're doing is you're actually doing the same thing in effect as lowering the price, but by getting a repair allowance, you'll be able to still get the same loan that you had previously without messing up all your loan paperwork and having the lender reduce the amount of money that they're going to lend on the property. And the other thing that is neat about repair allowances is you can negotiate a repair allowance on a commercial property based upon whatever you and the seller agree upon. Now, this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have all that work done. Obviously, if there's safety issues or some sort of concerns with the property or something that affects the welfare of the tenants, obviously you're going to have that work done. The property in Colorado that I just mentioned, on that particular property, the property was located in an area where it really, yes, it had hail damage on the roof, but it didn't really leak unless it rained for about 3 or 4 days in a row. And the area that it was in an area where it really rarely rained. Maybe once a year or something it might rain 3 or 4 days in a row and it would start leaking a little bit. We would have the tenants put a bucket under it. We'd go out and look at it. Obviously, once it stopped raining, the roof stopped leaking. And we were able to actually push off having that roof repaired for a number of years. In fact, we pushed it all the way off until we turned around and sold the property 3 or 4 years later, had the roof repaired a couple of weeks prior to closing, and then actually paid for the roof repairs out of the proceeds from the closing after we had increased the value of the property by raising the rents and reducing the expenses and that type of thing. So number 4 is a repair allowance. I hope these tips help you on a commercial property that you've gotten under contract, that you've had an inspection done on, and you're going back to negotiate the price down a little bit lower, or if you can get it in the form of a repair allowance, as I mentioned. I hope you found this helpful. My name is Peter Conti. I am co-author of Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies. In fact, if you'd like to get your free copy of this book, I've bought this book for you. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and you get the book for free. Click the link down below and you can check out the offer to get your free copy of Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies and get started in a big way on going after using commercial real estate to change the quality and add some fun to your life.